For today's cup of coffee, I'm going to be flying solo for a few days. Youngest kid is helping his father move. So he's down there doing some heavy lifting and different things like that. So just be in prayer for him because he's a good worker. He really is when he gets going. Remember, he's a Pisces, so it sometimes takes a little bit of urging, but he always wants to do a good job. I think that that's true of a lot of people, that sometimes it's analysis paralysis. We had some very strange weather here yesterday, and just all of a sudden, I know that we were supposed to have some thunderstorm activity, and there was this huge boom, just the one, but I mean, it was window shattering, or not shattering, but shaking. And then it started to hail. And we're talking, it was marble-sized hail. And it went on for, I don't know if it was totally 5 minutes, but it was enough to where it was horribly concerning. Because I know a lot of times, we don't get tornadoes in this area often. We had one back in 2011. It wasn't right here in it was about, probably about 10 to 15 miles from where we live. And it was devastating. It really was. So when that started happening, I thought, that is very bizarre. I actually did post a video on X about it. And kid who actually has been told, as far as they know, he is kidney stone free now. That, where he had his doctor's appointment, which is about 30 minutes from here. I'm not sure how that is as far as mileage. They had nothing. They were kind of shocked and appalled when I showed them the video. They were like, this is crazy. And I'm like, yeah. So we've got more crazy going on top of everything else. And this is a story from Live Science by Daisy. Now I'm going to try to pronounce this, and if I can't, it's mountain speak, so don't expect much of me. It's Dobrijevic. That's as close as I can get. And Daisy, honey, I'm so sorry if I have totally blown that out of the water. And this is from June the 16th of 2024. And the article is entitled, "The Sun's Magnetic Field is About to Flip, and Here's What to Expect." And for some of us that have kept up with the solar cycles and stuff for several years, I started keeping up with some of it in 2013. I think this had been proposed or anticipated or suspected. And this is a good little article. It says the sun is on the verge of a significant event, a magnetic field reversal. This phenomenon happens regularly every 11 years and marks an important stage in the solar cycle. The shift in polarity indicates the halfway point of solar maximum, the height of solar activity, and the beginning of the shift toward solar minimum. And I'm one of these people that have had the 11s and 22s for years. So the 11-year cycle of the sun, that didn't escape me at all. It says the last time the sun's magnetic field flipped was toward the end of 2013. But what causes the switch in polarity? And is it dangerous? Let's take a deep look at the sun's magnetic field reversal and investigate the effects it could have on Earth. To understand the magnetic field's reversal, first, it's important to be familiar with the solar cycle. This approximate 11-year cycle of solar activity is driven by the sun's magnetic field and is indicated by the frequency and intensity of sunspots visible on the surface. The height of solar activity during a given solar cycle is known as solar maximum, and current estimates predict it will occur between late 2024 and early 2026. Now, within that, there are some very interesting planetary alignments. And this is something I truly, and I'm at some point would like to send Robert Phoenix a message and ask him if there would be a possibility of him interviewing Stefan Burns, or Stefan, because Stefan has a great understanding not only of the solar cycles, but also planetary alignments, and as far as how that deals with consciousness and astrology. And I think that that would be a fabulous interview. So I am going to suggest that at some point. But there is another very important, albeit lesser known cycle that encapsulates two 11-year solar cycles, known as the Hale cycle, Hale. This magnetic cycle lasts approximately 22 years. Now, when I read that, I'm like, no shit, are you kidding me? This is nuts. That's through which the sun's magnetic field reverses and then reverts to its original state. Ryan French, a solar astrophysicist and at space.com contributing writer, told space.com. During solar minimum, the sun's magnetic field is close to a dipole with one north pole and one south pole, similar to Earth's magnetic field. But as we shift towards solar maximum, the sun's magnetic field becomes more complex without a clear north-south pole separation, French said. At the time solar maximum passes and solar minimum arrives, the sun has returned to a dipole, albeit with a flipped polarity. The upcoming switch in polarity will be from the northern to southern magnetic field in the northern hemisphere and vice versa in the southern hemisphere. And French said, quote, "This will bring it to a similar magnetic orientation to Earth, which also has its southern pointing magnetic field in the northern hemisphere," end quote. And so I'm wondering, and this is something else that Stefan discusses, the Schumann resonances. And will this bring more harmony? I don't know. I just have questions. That's what I got. It says the reversal is driven by sunspots, magnetically complex regions of the sun's surface that can spawn significant solar events such as solar flares and coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, which are large blasts of plasma and magnetic field. We've had lots of those lately. And so has it caused... Some people are more sensitive to the effects of these than others. And some people are affected by them and have no clue what's going on. And Stefan has lots of grounding techniques, which grounding is simply going out and putting bare feet on the earth and allowing the magnetic field of the earth to draw whatever overstimulation, negative energy, and different things like that. Because humans are batteries too. We are, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. But to allow the magnetic field to draw that negativity into itself, through the earth, and it helps. And he's also, as far as the hugging of a tree, yes, because that is actually feasible. It's between heaven and earth, and it can help draw some of that negative energy out of people. It's not just woo-woo. It's just that the science hasn't caught up with what the ancients knew thousands of years ago. As sunspots emerge close to the equator, they will have an orientation matching the old magnetic field, while sunspots forming close to the poles will have a magnetic field matching the incoming magnetic orientation, French said. This is called Hale's law, and he says the magnetic field from active regions makes its way towards the poles and eventually causes the reversal. And that wasn't Hale that said that. That was solar physicist Todd Koeskema, close enough, director of the Wilcox Solar Observatory at Stanford University. But the exact underlying cause of such a flip of polarity remains mysterious. And there was another one from Stanford. The solar physicist Phil Schreier had previously told Space.com, quote, "That gets into the whole solar cycle and wondering what it is. We still don't have a really self-consistent mathematical description of what's happening. And until you can model it, you don't really understand it. It's hard to really understand it," end quote. Well, I propose that one of the reasons they don't understand it is because they totally discount planetary alignment. And that's why they're sort of confused about it, because that separation of what is legitimate science, what is not legitimate science. It's all Newton's cradle. Everything is frequency and vibration. One thing moves, it's going to cause everything else to move. It's not that hard to figure that out. It really depends on where the magnetic field comes from. And Huescama had said, quote, "Are there going to be many sunspots? And are the sunspots going to contribute to the magnetic field of the pole, or are they going to kind of cancel locally?" End quote. That question we don't yet know how to answer. And says what we do know is that the solar magnetic field flip is not instantaneous. It's a gradual transition from a dipole to a complex magnetic field to a reverse dipole over the entire 11-year solar cycle. And French said, quote, "In short, there is no specific moment in which the sun's poles flip. It's not like the Earth where the flip is measured by the migration of the north-south pole," end quote. It generally takes a year or two for a complete reversal, but it can vary significantly. For example, the North Polar Field of Solar Cycle 24, which ended in December of 2019, took nearly 5 years to reverse, according to the National Solar Observatory. The magnetic field flip is so gradual you won't even notice when it happens. And no, however dramatic it might sound, it's not the sign of an impending apocalypse. And Schreier had previously told Space.com, quote, "The world will not end tomorrow," end quote. However, we will experience some of the polarity's side effects. And there's no doubt that the sun has been incredibly active recently, firing out numerous powerful solar flares and CMEs, triggering strong geomagnetic storms on Earth, which in turn have produced some incredible auroral displays of late. And I know that people, sometimes they will feel anxious, feel nervous, headaches, muscle aches. I know that I'm one of these, that I have an increase in fibromyalgia during some of these solar storms. It just depends. I know that we had some that lasted one weekend, and I loved it. I was more chill that weekend than I had been in years. So if we get something like that, those are great. However, the increased severity of space weather is not the direct cause of the flip in polarity. Rather, these things tend to occur together, Huescama had told Space.com in 2013. Space weather is typically the strongest during solar maximum, when the sun's magnetic field is also the most complex, according to French. One side effect of the magnetic field shift is slight but primarily beneficial. It can help shield Earth from galactic cosmic rays, high-energy subatomic particles that travel at near light speed and can damage spacecraft and harm orbiting astronauts who are outside of Earth's protective atmosphere. And it's interesting that in this article they used a quote from 2013. That's a long time ago, especially with some of the newer technology and stuff that we have. There's some kind of device that they're using now that can show protons, and that those things can affect the Earth, that they travel to Earth a lot quicker than some of the other waves from the geomagnetic storms. So it makes me wonder on this, are they truly keeping up with some of the modern models and technology? And it says that as the sun's magnetic field shifts, the current sheet, a sprawling surface that radiates billions of miles outward from the sun's equator, becomes very wavy, providing a better barrier against cosmic rays. And it ends up in the article, it says, scientists will be keeping a watchful eye on the sun's magnetic field reversal and seeing how long it takes for it to bounce back into a dipole configuration. If that happens within the next couple of years, the next 11-year cycle will be relatively active. But if the buildup is slow, the cycle will be relatively weak, like the previous solar cycle 24. And I know that over the past few months that there were like CMEs. One of them was on the sort of the far side of the sun, and they didn't think that it was going to cause a geomagnetic storm, but it did. and that there were some geomagnetic storms without the CMEs. And so as people begin to study the sun more closely, then we're going to find more answers. But I truly believe that Stefan Burns is just spot on a lot of the questions that he's asking, and he's connecting a lot of dots. So, if you've had experiences with paranormal or supernatural, encounters with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, tinfoil hats, if you're one of these that likes and knows about the solar cycles and the 11s and 22s, if somebody would please explain to me what those mean, that would be wonderful. And you can go ahead and put that in the comment section, or if you want to be shy, you can send me an email, and that's cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com, and that's there in the description box, and the link to the article will be there also. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'm on BitChute, Rumble, as well as the YouTube, until they get pissy, because they sometimes do. And if I'm not on the YouTube, you'll know they got pissy, and you can find me on BitChute and Rumble. And on X, and it is Warlandus, COCWS. I post random good stuff. I don't usually get too deep on some. And there's some really cool people over there. I have a smaller group, and just wonderful, wonderful people. Know that you are loved. Treat other people the way that you would like to be treated. That's key right now. It truly is. And Lord willing, we'll see you on the next cup. Bye.